Hello, everyone, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review of the first two episodes of Daredevil Born Again, this latest addition into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is the 13th television show to drop on Disney Plus, coming from Marvel Studios under its Marvel Television banner, and it shares continuity with the films in the franchise. So this is officially a part of the MCU, unlike when it was over on Netflix from 2015 to 2018. It was, but it wasn't. It was they hinted to a lot of things that happened in the MCU, but never directly connected to it. But this go around, we are definitely in the MCU. This show we have returning from that Netflix series as Matt Murdock, Daredevil himself, Charlie Cox. We have Vincent D'Onofrio, Deborah Ann Wall, Eldon Henson, and many others. This show picks up basically right after the Netflix show. And I give a shout out to the showrunners and writers of this show, to whereas it picks up after that series, but still feels brand new and fresh in the MCU over on Disney Plus. I thought that was cool. It just felt like we was back on that train again. Wasn't much introduction to a lot of characters. Um, Hopefully you've seen the Daredevil show on Netflix and know a little bit about the character. But at the same time, if this is your first foray into the Daredevil universe, you can ride along with it. It really did a good job of that. I really enjoyed these first two episodes. I thought they were uh like I said, a continuation of the show that we have grown in love from 10 years ago. It is hard to believe 10 years since that show first premiered on Netflix, and it still has that same vibe. It was that fear of it coming over to Disney Plus, it being Disneyfied, and Marvel Studios wouldn't allow it to go there, but it went there. This show is bloody, is violent, it has the language, all of that. It's real, it's gritty, and I appreciate it for that. This is a comic book character for me personally that I have grown to love over time. And that love started years ago, when I really started to dive into Daredevil and his story and what he was all about. Because at first I was like, a blind superhero, I'm really not getting on board with that. And it took me a while to really get on board with it. And when I did, I loved it. And if anybody knows me, I am a huge Batman fan, and over at DC, of course. But I'm a huge Batman fan. My favorite comic book character, superhero of all time. And if we're going to compare superheroes, crossover wise, DC to Marvel, the closest thing I have would be Daredevil. Now, Matt Murdock is not a millionaire. He's not a billionaire. He doesn't have the gadgets. He does, the Batmobiles and all this other good stuff. It wasn't that. It was it's his intelligence, it's his fighting style, everything about him, and he's raw, he's real, and he's a normal human being. Now his superpowers, and I put that in heavy quotation, superpowers, is due to the fact that he was blinded as a child, and his other four senses are amplified. So he has super hearing, and he can tell if somebody is lying by their heartbeat, the rhythm of their heartbeat changing, because he can hear it. Things like that. I love that about the character. But besides all that, he's a normal person. He's not bulletproof. He's not invulnerable. He can't fly. He doesn't regenerate. He's a normal person. And that's what I love about Batman. Batman is a normal person. But back to this character, I know y'all, I know y'all clicked on this episode just to hear me rant about comparisons between Daredevil and Batman. But I just wanted to throw that out there why I love this character so much. But when we got the movie with Ben Affleck in the early 2000s, I thought it was all right. As time has gone on, not so much. The show, when it premiered on Netflix, I absolutely loved it because it was so different and so original from what we have grown accustomed to around that time. And even still now, to this day, we don't get these dark, gritty comic book properties done justice. Man, this show really did not disappoint in that aspect. If you're looking for Guardians of the Galaxy, uh, Avengers, bubbly, happy, jokey comic book property, this isn't your show. I'm gonna say this isn't your show. But if you're a grounded superhero lover, this is for you. If you are into procedurals like the Law and Orders of the world and stuff like that, this is the show for you. I just love the story behind it. I know what the big complaint will probably be for a lot of people who watch these first two episodes. There's no Daredevil. We get Daredevil in the first, 5 minutes of the first episode, and we don't see Daredevil no more for the rest of that episode and in episode 2 as well. But I didn't care because I was into the story. The story is what drove it. But I know a lot of people want to see Matt Murdock in his suit hopping on rooftops and fighting criminals every single episode. We don't need that. And that gets boring real quick when you really sit down and think about it. I want to see, why is he fighting, and it's shown in episode 2, and if you watched episode 1, you see why we haven't gotten him. And it's going to make you appreciate it when he does put on the suit later on this season, whether it's next episode or a couple of episodes down the line, because it's earned. And so I'm really loving this journey that we're going on here. Spoilers. If you have not seen the first 2 episodes, I'm going to talk about it. The big opening, I guess you could say, the big like shock of this series. Froggy died. Froggy, man. I mean, it was a big, well, I should have known. I should have known because they made a big deal with the fact that they have brought back Froggy and Paige from the Netflix show, Deborah Ann Wall and Aiden Henson, and the only one you heard about was Deborah. She was the only one they really interviewed, but they never really talked about Aiden. And so I should have known that he wasn't going to be on this show very long. And boy, he was not. It was basically a cameo. The first 5 minutes of this show, he was taken out, and it was kind of like, oh man, and it was heartbreaking. It really was heartbreaking. Kudos to the performances of Charlie Cox in that scene, Deborah Ann Wall in that scene. It was impactful. I felt it. It was very well done. It was good to see that opening fight sequence between Daredevil and Bullseye. It was brutal. And I love the camera work here. I love the cinematography in these first 2 episodes. I hope it continues throughout the rest of the series. But I love the cinematography, especially in that opening fight scene, because it was shot from it was like a lockdown camera, and these two are going at it, one single take almost, and you follow them up the stairs and they're on the rooftop and whatnot. And this lasted for about 5 minutes. They're throwing knives and utensils at each other and beating each other down and all this. It was brutal. And you get that in the first 5 minutes, and you don't see nothing like that no more for those 2 episodes. But that was enough to hold me over for these 2 episodes. That was a fight of fights. And I'm so glad that, once again, spoilers, that it appeared that Daredevil killed Bullseye after Bullseye had killed Froggy, but he survived. So that story can still continue. We can still see more Bullseye later on down the line. I'm hoping so because I can't think of the actor who portrays him on the show, but I love his portrayal from the Netflix series. I think it was the last season, the third season over there when they focused on Bullseye. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Wilson Fisk. Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, portrayed by Vincent D'Onofrio. Man, this dude was born to play this dude. I mean, he lost weight, and I love the fact that they acknowledged that in the show. You know, when Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock are sitting at that diner talking, and Matt Murdock tells him like, "Yeah, your steps aren't as heavy. You know, I could tell you lost weight, but you gained muscle. You know, so because the first time you see Vincent on screen, he's like, man, he's not as big. Now he wasn't big as Kingpin is depicted in the comics. He never was that big. You know, I don't think they can ever get an actor unless they put him in a suit, you know, a fat suit. But he wasn't humongous on the Netflix series, but he's even smaller now, but still a big guy. You know, he's still a towering, intimidating figure. The way he, you know, holds himself, and that's Vincent doing his thing. Vincent is one of the most slept on actors in Hollywood, and this been for years. I would say for about 40 years, this dude has been doing God's work on the big screen and on the small screen. I absolutely love Vincent D'Onofrio in everything that he does, and his portrayal of Wilson Fisk is just astonishing. It is beautiful how he can hold on to this character after all these years, keep that same energy, and still have that intimidating presence. This dude did such a good job for these first two episodes until the second episode when you really, you know for certain that he's up to some nefarious stuff. Of course, it's Kingpin. You knew he's up to something. But it was moments in there, once again, just me, and I'm gullible, so maybe that's why, but there was moments in there where I was like, maybe he turned the corner. you know, because he was so convincing in his performance. But it all came tumbling down as the two episodes went along. But loved his portrayal as this character. This story, this case, I should say, that Matt Murdock is on with this new client. It appears that this is going to be the storyline, the through line throughout this first season here, and I'm cool with it. It involves the White Tiger. If you don't know anything about the White Tiger, I implore you to look him up. The character from Marvel Comics, really cool character. Glad that they included him here in this show. I was expecting something else when they announced that he was going to be in the show, and I'm pretty sure it's just the first two episodes. I'm pretty sure we're going to get more from this character moving forward, but for him to be locked up behind bars, it was kind of like jarring for me at first. I'm like, oh, okay, so Matt Murdock's going to defend him for the entire season, I guess. And in case you don't know, if you never read the comics, that's what Matt Murdock do. This is what he does. Yeah, by night he's Daredevil. He's defending the city. He's fighting criminals and beating the living snot out of them and all that other good stuff. But during the day, he's an attorney, and he's defending mostly superheroes. Believe it or not, he'll defend Spider-Man and all this other stuff. That's what makes him so intriguing. But like I said, overall, very good start to the season. I'm hyped going forward. I am excited. And as much as this show didn't bother me, as much as I'm over the moon excited by these first two episodes, I can clearly see if people have a problem. And I'm not saying like they look at it and it's like, oh, this is high garbage. I mean, adding to the fact that there's no Daredevil. You know, there's no Matt Murdock dressing up in a suit and doing his superhero stuff. And uh I get it because you signed on to see a superhero show and you basically got a law procedural. And so I can understand the discord. I can understand where people would be kind of like, this ain't what I don't want to see. This is boring. It might be boring to some people, but for me, this is my type of show. This is my cup of tea, and I am definitely sipping it. I'm not going to grade these first two episodes, as you all know, if you are a continued listener to the show, and I appreciate it. And if you're new to the show, welcome. But I don't review episode by episode. I wait till the end of the season and then we do it all in one chunk. But so far, so good. I am definitely on board. Tuesday night viewing Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus. I am all in on this. I want to know your feelings of Daredevil Born Again. Were you a fan of the Netflix series and are you excited that it's back in a new shinier paint? Because the first episode, I immediately said, yep, they have a budget now. Because there was some shots in here, like the shot in the beginning when Daredevil is running along the rooftop and the camera is following him. You know, it's like a tracking shot. I like, okay, they got money now. Because Netflix, you wouldn't have seen that shot on the Netflix series. But regardless of that, I still enjoyed it. But I want to know your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Or are you waiting to see the season as a whole before you make a judgment about it? And once again, I understand that as well. Let me know by email. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about YouTube. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for these reviews of the first 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again. We're not going to do the week to week. We will come back to review after the season has wrapped up, but you can rest assured I will be planted in front of my television every Tuesday to watch this show. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.